Alright, greetings everybody. Well, today I'm going to be working again on my 97 Ford F350 with the 7.3 Powerstroke, and today I'm going to be replacing the mechanical lift pump on my truck. So here's the mechanical lift pump itself, and one thing to be careful of is, I'll get more into this whenever we actually start doing the procedure, but there's this plunger here that I just got to be careful of. On the old mechanical, on the lift pump that's inside the engine valley itself, it's going to have this tappet that actually is used to actuate the pump. And there's a risk that, and this actually sits on top of the camshaft, and there's a risk that when you pull it out, this whole thing is going to fall off in the engine. So you're going to have to make sure to be extra careful with that. Now the other thing I ordered was this sort of banjo bolt gasket kit. Alright, now this procedure should work for pretty much any 1994 to 1997 Ford Powerstroke 7.3 diesel. Basically on the 94 to 97s, there's this mechanical lift pump, and you can kind of see it down here in the valley, here. And one thing to note, we've got a couple fuel lines going to it. There's actually 3 in total. And right back here in the rear, this is what's called the banjo bolt, and that's where the fuel actually comes out of the pump to go into each of the cylinder heads. Now, this only works for the older body style 94 to 97 trucks, because the later model Super Duties actually use an electronic fuel pump. And so, of course, it didn't have this lift pump in the valley. For safety's sake, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect both of my batteries as well. Got the batteries now disconnected, and I'm going to go ahead and remove the intake Y plenum. Right. Now, one thing whenever you're pulling this off, there's this kind of a O-ring on it. Just watch out for this O-ring and make sure that you don't lose that. Okay, now that I got that intake boot off, I'm going to go ahead and stuff some rags in all these little holes here. Okay, now we're able to look and see the mechanical lift pump a lot better. And just looking at it, you can already see these 2 main fuel lines up top. And the way these work is that there's actually this main line that comes in here, comes in from the tank, and it goes into this sort of a diaphragm plunger, or I guess diaphragm style pump here. And this is the low pressure side of the lift pump, and this will actually suck fuel from the tank. Then it pressurizes it, sends it back out here into the fuel bowl, where it goes through the fuel filter itself and all that, and then later on it'll actually come out in the very bottom, where it goes into the second stage of the pump, which is the high pressure side, that pressurizes it to about 50-60 psi, whatever the pressure regulator is set at, and then it goes out to the cylinder heads itself. And that's basically the idea of how this works. Okay, well, it looks like I'm going to have to loosen up my fuel bowl assembly, so you can see there's a bolt right down here. Let's say that's a 13 millimeter, and there's another one on the other side. It's right down there, and you can see that. That's the other 13 millimeter bolt. You just got to loosen those up. Okay, to get this bolt here, got a extension on my socket, or an extension on my wrench, and a 13 millimeter right there. There we go. There we go. Starting to spill a little diesel, of course. And if your fuel lines have not been replaced before, it probably is a good idea, and you probably want to replace those before you try replacing your pump if you are trying to trace down a leak like I am. But mine are pretty new, so I know they're not the culprit. My lift pump was failing, and I could tell because there's always diesel that's coming out of the lift pump itself, which is, if this thing's leaking and it's not your lines and it's not your banjo bolt in the back, then it's a good key indication that your fuel pump's worn out. Next thing I'm going to have to do is tackle the banjo bolt. It's right back here. And you see it's kind of in a really awkward position with the turbo pedestal, but I'm going to see if I can get a box end wrench on that and get that sucker out. So I've got a 1 1/4 wrench, and it just fits kind of right on there, and we got a little bit of room to work, so maybe, cross your fingers, I can get the sucker off. Well, that broke loose. And there's your banjo bolt, right there. Don't lose this bolt. Hold on to it, and you're going to need to reuse this, unless, of course, you bought a new banjo bolt. See if I can separate that. Yeah, there it goes. I can see the ring that popped off. Let's see if I can get that out. There's that ring. This is one of the seals that was holding everything on. I think snap it off. So now the next thing I can hopefully do is start loosening up the bolts to hold on to the fuel pump itself. So you can see right there, that's one of our bolts. It looks like a 10mm, but I'll have to verify that. There's another one on the other side, holding it down. You can kind of see it right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen those up. And also another thing I just realized too is that I have my lower line there. You see it right down there. Another line that comes from the fuel bowl to the fuel pump itself. So I'm going to go and loosen that up and give myself some more room to work. Because the thing about these fuel pumps is that because they sit in the valley itself, I mean, they kind of have a habit of sometimes getting stuck, and the last thing you want is for the bottom of the scene to get broken off. And so really what you want to do is you want to pull straight up on these, and you don't want to wiggle side to side or anything like that, at least not too much. So I'm just going to pull this thing straight up, and part of doing that is to pull off anything else that might be interfering, getting in the way, and that is this fuel line as well. So I'm going to pull that off, so there's nothing else getting in the way that might be holding this thing down. Make it as easy as possible. I think to ease everything up and give myself some more space to work and get this sucker safely out, is I'm going to go ahead and kind of get my fuel bowl out of the way and kind of remove it a little bit. So there's these two fuel lines I'm going to pull out. Breaking these things loose, just 9/16 wrench, pretty basic. Down here as well. Okay, so I think while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and take off my fuel pressure regulator. That's this part over here on the fuel bowl. And the reason I want to do that is there's actually a screen inside here. Right in there, that can kind of get clogged up. And I need to clean it anyways. And I'll show you guys what I mean. Let me go ahead and get it off. 10mm bolt to hold it on. Two of them. And the other thing now is that these bolts are different sizes. There's a long one and a short one. And of course they'll only go back in the same place. So the long one here goes up top so they can reach through. And the short one here went down below. Okay, so now you can probably get an idea about that screen I was talking about. So this is that little screen. That's the little tiny screen I was talking about right there. And this screen itself, sometimes will have a lot of crud in it. And a lot of that's just junk from the tank that it goes in there. And if this thing is clogged up, it can cause a loss of power. But at this point I can see, okay, well this thing's clean and I'm having power loss issues, so it's probably my pump losing some fuel pressure and not sealing like it should. Yeah, there we go. Now, the pressure regulator itself just kind of sits on. Now mine's a 97 model, so it has this little stub that it stands on. There's a little O-ring in there. If you've got a later model, or sorry, an earlier model, they're going to have a kind of a big plastic thing on the bottom of it, and it's just a little bit different to pull out. And that's basically the fuel pressure regulator. And right there, that's that little where that screen goes into. But now, the bowl's a lot easier to move around. I can hopefully get it out. Has more room to work. There's a couple little electrical connections on the back, on the side of this fuel bowl. Two. This one right down here. There's actually two of them. Those are for the fuel bowl heater. And this is why I have power disconnected, because I'm working on electronics there. But there's a wiring harness here on the side that I'm going to disconnect. This goes to the, if I understand, the IPR, the injection pressure regulator. So I guess I'll have to, oh, there we go, pull out that. And hopefully not lose any of these harness pieces. Now a little further down here, you can see it's still connected to the IPR, the injection pressure regulator, so I'm going to pull that out. Just like that. This might not have been necessary, but I got it out anyways. Pry up on it or something. Oh, you can see it move. Okay. I'm going nice and slow, and that's because I do not want to break this thing out. Oh my goodness. Holy crap. Look at that, the tappet's in there. Oh my goodness. Wow, yeah. I was terrified the thing would fall out. But okay, I'm gonna stuff a rag in here real quick. You can see that little weep hole right there. That's where all the diesel was coming out. Now, I'd heard these Carter ones, and also Alliant, are not necessarily the best pumps in the world. Now, these things come with a warranty, but they have a habit of leaking, and even if you replace it under warranty, it's going to leak again. I've heard they're just garbage overall. But that's why I went ahead and played it safe, and I got one that was, I spent a little bit more for it. This was probably $100 for this part, but whereas these Carters you can pick up for 60 or 70 bucks or so online, and I'm hoping that this thing will last a lot longer, and I won't have to be doing this again a few months down the road, and it won't leak. So, but right in there, you can actually see part of that camshaft lobe that it rests on, and that's why we got to be careful, because you can see the camshaft there, and there's clear holes there, and it can go straight down into the engine. That's why you be careful about the tappet. Okay, I gotta make sure we get the orientation on this thing correct. Had the banjo bolt goes in the back, so we're gonna have that facing toward the rear. Make sure this tappet doesn't fall out. It's pretty new. So. All right. Put that down. Seems to have settled in nicely. Okay, now the tightening of the whole thing. Do a little bit at a time on either side, so this thing sets in nice and even. Okay, show you guys something here real quick on the banjo bolt. There's actually two washers here that you got to be careful of. There's two of them. And if you think about it, it makes sense. So there's going to be one that's going to go towards the back here. And that's going to, so right where my screwdriver is, that's going to point, or it's going to connect the banjo bolt itself to this. And then we also have that one that connects the fitting itself to the fuel pump. So there's going to be one back here and another one back here. And that's the thing, is that the kit comes with two washers, so I'm going to go ahead and replace them both, just to make sure, because these things are designed to crush, so they seal properly. And I'm going to install new ones so that I can hopefully ensure they don't have leaks. Now the other thing too is if you end up doing this like I did, where you didn't pull off your turbo pedestal, then I have no way of checking the torque specs on this, but it was pretty darn snug in there whenever I got it, so I'm just gonna snug it back. Okay, while I've got this fuel bowl off, let me show you guys on the back side of it. Right back here, there's another place for a common 7.3 leak. Back here where the valve is to drain the water out of the tank, or out of it, right here. So this is the valve to open and close it, to drain water out. But apparently this little fitting here, this piece of plastic, has a tendency to sometimes crack. And also has a tendency to, there's two O-rings in there that have a tendency to go out as well. So if you got this thing off, you might as well replace it. But I don't have the stuff for it right now. And it's not terrible to get this thing off, so it's not leaking, so I'm not going to worry about trying to replace it right now. Alright, I got the fuel bowl here. I'm going to see about putting it all back in. I've got these two lines back here. There are two wires to reconnect the block. They're for the fuel bowl heater. Again, battery's disconnected. That. Now I gotta get the fuel line back on the bottom. This is the hardest one to get to. Okay, I gotta reconnect this fuel line. It goes in here, so it's good to have the thing still loose somewhat. Number two bolts to hold the regulator in. Alright, so it slips on. At bottom has a little O-ring, kind of slips on top right there. The bottom in. screen in. Slides right in there. Okay, so there's that screen. Slides in there. Just like that. Wow, I'm wearing it. Nice and easy. Alright guys, I think I finally got everything back together. Got the batteries connected. And I'm going to see about turning this thing over. Just double check the fluids. I'm going to crank this thing over so that I can check for leaks and get it all primed before I end up actually firing it up. And the idea here is I'm trying to make sure I'm not turning by the ignition, because otherwise PCM is going to basically tell the injectors to fire and basically be firing without any fuel in them, and that's going to run through fuel and it's going to make priming harder. So I'm going to crank this over a whole lot, check for leaks, and, well, see how this works. Okay, now another thing too is that on the fuel pressure regulator right over here, there's actually a Schrader valve that you can use to kind of push that down and hopefully relieve some air pressure that might be built up inside everything. So we'll push that down just a little bit and release some air pressure. And normally air shouldn't be in here, it should be just, well, you know, fuel, but in this case everything's dry. Alright, well, at this point I might as well go ahead and see if I can fire it up. Well, I just got done taking my truck for a test spin, and it looks like it's pretty good. I'm not seeing any leaks or anything, so that's definitely a good sign. But basically what I ended up doing is going to take it for a test spin, and I just drove it around for a while just to make sure that if there's any air that will be inside the fuel system, I got it stay worked out. Because these things naturally have a regulated return system, so the air should naturally make its way out of the system if there is any in there. But I hope this video has helped you guys, and if you have any questions, please go ahead and put a comment in the comment box, and I'll see if I can help you out. But best of luck to you all, and I hope you have a good one.